Mahihirapang makahanap ng trabaho ang mga bagong magsisipagtapos sa kolehiyo ngayong taon. Ayon sa grupo, ito ay dahil sa patuloy na pagtaas ng job mismatch.
Job skills mismatch in the Philippines.
Much of a matching between the skills and the jobs available.
The Philippine Economic Zone Authority says skill mismatch remains one of the challenges in the country's labor sector.
Hey, imagine this. Meet Juan. He is an education major who poured his heart into his studies, from sleepless nights, all fueled by his passion to teach and finally give back to his parents after sending him to college. But after 4 years, Juan finally graduated, hopeful that he could step in a room and inspire the next generation. But instead, months later, he finds himself a job far from what he trained for. His diploma says clearly, Bachelor of Secondary Education. Yet his paycheck comes from work that has little to do with his degree. To tell you, Juan's story is not unique. It's part of a bigger trend. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority, as of 2024, 39% of the Filipino workers are overeducated. In plain terms, nearly 2 out of 5 Filipinos are in jobs that don't make full use of their hard-earned education. For me, this is more than just a personal frustration. This is a crisis. We're investing billions in education, and remember, Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, which SHED reportedly absorbed nearly 90% of its budget in 2021. Yet too many graduates like Juan end up underemployed. It's evident in outlets like Rappler and Business World regularly highlight this paradox. We're producing nurses who end up in call centers, engineers taking up clerical jobs, our IT expert pivot into sales. Clearly, something isn't adding up. This is exactly what the working paper entitled Resolving Education Employment Mismatches in the Philippines by yours truly, Miss Monica Melchor, my labor economics professor. So now let's move on. What's the heart of this debate? Are too many Filipinos taking degrees that don't match available jobs? Or is it the industry simply failing to create enough high-skill position? Well, if they say if education is supposed to raise wages, why mismatch workers earning less? Why they're experiencing wage penalties? Or maybe should the government even continue subsidizing higher education universally? Or maybe shift the funds towards technical vocational trainings or better job market alignment. Indeed, this working paper exactly tackles this question. And spoiler alert, the problem is not about the individuals making poor choices. It's about systemic mismatches in how education, labor, and the industry are coordinated. Or more accurately, not coordinated. Well, let's dive into the receipts. In the study relies on the Philippine Labor Survey classifying jobs by education they require. The result? Nearly 40% of the Filipinos are overeducated. That is 2 out of 5 employees working in jobs that don't really need their degree. On the other hand, 25 to 26 are undereducated, meaning that they lack the formal schooling their job's supposed to require. And on top of that, only about 1/3 are well matched. So there you have it. You can see that a mismatch in our country is very evident. That is only the tip of the iceberg. Now, for every additional year of required schooling, wages rise to 7% and 19%. That is consistent with the human capital theory. Education pays when it aligned to the job. But the caveat here is that every extra surplus schooling, what we call overeducation, the payoff shrink around 5%. 7% to 5%. Clear disparity. And for those undereducated, the penalty is real. They earn 4 to 10% less for each year they fall short for the job requirement. So, in simple terms, if you're mismatched, you are not getting the full return of your diploma, and in some cases, you're outright losing income compared to your well-matched peers. Now, worth mentioning that the problem varies from location and sector. First, in urban centers like Metro Manila and Cebu, mismatch is most severe. Why? Because industries there think about retail, clerical work, call centers, absorb a lot of graduates, and don't always require specialized degree. In rural areas, undereducation is more common. Farmers or informal workers often take on jobs demanding skills that they haven't formally trained for. And to tell you that the Philippines is not alone in this crisis. In Indonesia, World Bank study shows 30 to 35% of workers are overeducated, facing similar wage penalties. While in Vietnam, overeducated workers do earn more than undereducated ones, but still less than well-matched workers, creating a clear wage hierarchy. But in the Philippines, our country, with nearly 40% overeducated, we sit at the higher end compared to our Asian neighbors. The paper also finds that poorer students and women are more likely to be mismatched. Poorer students because they lack the strong job networks and career guidance, and women because they often absorb into clerical works and services positions where degrees are not fully rewarded. To put it all together, the picture is clear. Mismatch isn't about the unlucky graduates, it's about the structural inefficiencies in our labor market. Education years are being underutilized, wages are suppressed, and billions of government spending on free and tertiary education that don't yield their full return to the economy. This tells us that this is not just personal frustrations for one. This is a national crisis with real economic consequences. Let's now bridge what we learned from our labor economics course. We tackle labor supply. As the supply of graduates rises each year, especially in fields like education, nursing, and IT. When the supply grows faster than demand, those professions oversupply occurs. This shift in the labor supply curve to the right, creating lower equilibrium wages and push more graduates into unrelated jobs. On the other hand, labor demand, firms' demand for labor is derived from consumer demand. Since much of the Philippine economy is service-based, many jobs require specialized college degrees. This mismatch of what the school supplies and what the firms demand drives up underemployment. Let's dive into human capital theory. It's a doctrine that says that education rises productivity, hence wages. But in practice, mismatch distort this. Extra schooling yields lower return if not matched with the job requirements. In the study, required schooling yields gains with 7 to 19%, while overeducation gives only 5%. Now, let's dive into the signaling theory. Employers use our diploma as a signal of general ability, but not necessarily specific skills. This helps explain why a graduate in education can still land on non-teaching job. But since the skills aren't fully valid in that position, his wage returns remain low. Of course, worth mentioning that free tertiary education promotes equity by giving more students access. But if subsidies aren't targeted in high-demand fields, efficiency suffers. This is exactly the trade-off Melchor highlights. Should we keep spreading resources thin or focus on where labor demand is high? Now let's dive into the policy recommendations. This paper does not stop on the diagnostic of this crisis. It prescribes a cure. Here are some big takeaways. First, reform subsidy. Link government funding for higher educations to graduate employment outcomes. Don't just pour money equally into all degree programs. Prioritize fields with strong labor demand. Labor market information system. Build a centralized dynamic system to track industry needs, project future demand, and guide both students and universities. Of course, very important, interagency coordination. Strengthen collaboration among CHED, TESDA, DOLE, and industry groups so education supply matches labor demand. Curriculum flexibility. Introduce modular learning, stackable credentials, and more internship to allow faster adaptation into evolving industry needs. Target equity. Pay special attention to poorer students who are likely to suffer mismatches. Improve their access to network, job fairs, and career guidance. So the bottom line is, Throwing money at university is not enough. What we need is smarter coordination and accountability. So what did we learn? Mismatch is widespread. It's a phenomena. About 40% of workers are in jobs below their education level. Wages suffer. Extra schooling pays only 1/3 as much when it's mismatched. The problem is structural. This is not a personal choice. And the solution lies on the policy coordination, smarter subsidies, and better labor market data. Now, if we can fix this, the Philippines won't just be producing graduates, we'll be producing matched, productive, and well-paid graduates. And definitely that's the dream that we signed up for. I think that's it. Thank you for watching, and allow me to ask you, which degree do you think has the most mismatch in the Philippines today? Is it nursing, education, engineering? Well, let's start a conversation. Bye!